sleep deprivation, for example. Sleep deprivation can lead to some really crazy moments. I personally have had some extreme times sailing alone, and I have some stories to go with it, that's for sure. And is sleep deprivation, I'm sure on the long ones it's quite common. Did you ever have a time when you began to hallucinate? Do you have any stories that are related to sleep deprivation on the route or the race?
Definitely. I made many friends during sleep deprivation. Never met them again. But yeah,
imaginary
for sure.
ones.
Honestly, I've mentioned earlier that I believe that the toughest challenge of an adventure race is not the physical side, it's the mental side.
Yes.
But if I look at the mental side, the toughest compartment of the mental side is definitely sleep deprivation. In my experience, there is no bigger pain than the pain of just wanting to sleep and you can't. That's really been my experience. It's the toughest pain, because physical pain I can personally have experience that I can still push through. But when your body shuts down, sleep deprivation wise, it just wants to sleep. It just wants to shut down. And I'll touch on it a little bit, but I've also learned there's many different types of sleep deprivation. Like there's literally levels that you start going through. But people say, just use this, just eat this. But the reality is at some stage, your body starts to really want to protect itself, and it just shuts down. We've fallen asleep during going down rapids in whitewater paddling or going at high speed over technical terrain, cycling downhill. And people say that's impossible. No, it's very, very possible. It's very possible to cycle 20, 30 kilometers and then kind of wake up not knowing what you did. Your eyes were open, but you were definitely not consciously there. So sleep deprivation, in my experience, is the most painful part of expeditions or expedition racing. And people often ask me, can you train for it? I don't, maybe to a small extent, but not really.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I haven't slept much my whole life. I've always woken up very, very early because I've always had this balance of the academic sessional career and expeditions. But even with that, being used to maybe sleeping 3 to 4 hours during my school and student years, that never made me accustomed to sleep deprivation. It maybe made me a little bit more used to getting to being uncomfortable not sleeping, but you can't train it.
Yeah.
So sleep deprivation is real, and there's different levels. As an example, when I went through Nepal, the one thing what I've learned running across Nepal is I've never navigated for that long. So on the interim, initially, navigating keeps you awake because it keeps your brain going. But after a week, that mental fatigue actually takes a sleep deprivation to a whole new level.
Yeah.
So week one of running continuously, you basically just want to sleep the whole time. After that, you actually semi-asleep the whole time. You don't even realize it anymore. But then later, like towards week 3, you don't feel sleepy anymore, but you don't even aware if you're actually awake. You'll have a conversation with Ryan Sands, my running partner and good friend. Yeah. We'll have a conversation and then actually have to double check with each other. Are we actually having this conversation, or am I just imagining?
Did it happen?
And you build in all these little tests. Are we actually hearing what we're hearing? You know, so you actually get to a space where you don't, the falling asleep is the easy part, because you can have a quick power nap and you feel better. But you go through that where your body just like, okay, I see you're not going to sleep. Voices become very real, and you go through experiences which you're not quite sure happened. So if you know of a secret how to get through sleep deprivation, I'm all ears. But for me, I've just learned it. It's just one of those Achilles heels going through expeditions, and you've just got to keep yourself as safe as possible through it.
Yeah, I've gone through some really hard times sailing alone without an engine into some places. One time I sailed into the Tuamotus, and it's a really strange place because it's coral atolls, and what happens is you have a lagoon on the inside and you got ocean on the outside, and it's just a coral reef that sort of circles the lagoon. And what happens is, you know, you got movement of wave on the lagoon and you got movement of the ocean, so you really don't see land. And sailing without an engine, navigating into this place, you really have to stay alert. And I remember this is when I was just really starting to sail alone and crossing the South Pacific, and I was so scared to fall asleep and like end up on the reef. I actually took 2 alarm clocks and
I love this story.
one in each ear and set them for 15-minute intervals. So I would wake up.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And, I was playing tricks with myself. But over the years, I did put myself into some long days, three days sometimes, trying to cross shipping lanes and doing things in certain places where I had to stay awake. And I had gone through hallucinations, and I put myself into some really strange places. And in fact, I even got on land one time after a trip, sat down, drank a beer, and I don't remember. People tell me stories, but I don't remember any of it. And it really was hard on me mentally, I think, the sleep deprivation. So I totally get it. Yeah.